So tell us your name.
Habib Hajallie.
And how did you get involved with Guttenberg Arts? Gutenberg Arts, I should say.
I saw an ad online on one of the websites I checked for opportunities in the arts, and there was an open call for space and time residency, and it was exactly what I was looking for in a residency.
What was that?
Sorry?
What was it you were looking for in a residency if this was exactly it?
Literally just space and time, just to solely focus on making and not having to worry about doing commissions, and which is not what I normally do to generate income. And yeah, because I don't have a studio space back home in London because it's so expensive. But like 24/7 access and printmaking and ceramics, and it's a good opportunity to try new things and carry on with what I wanted to do anyway. So it's a good marriage of things.
So how long have you been making art, and are you actually earning an income from it? Do you have to do anything else as well?
I've been making art. Well, I had my first exhibition when I was 19, my second year of university. So I've been making and exhibiting for 5 years in somewhat professional capacity. And I've been kind of full-time for a little bit over a year. Yeah, I make all my modest income as an artist, mainly commissions.
So how many people are you living with in London, by the way? Are you able to afford a place alone in London?
Oh no, I live at home with my mum.
Oh, you live at home with your mom.
Yeah.
Okay, and she's in London.
Yeah. Like just outside of London, suburbia. So
How does it compare to this part of New Jersey?
it's very different.
Yeah.
Just like the community aspect, because in England, community is always mixed in terms of ethnicity.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that it's a bad thing. It's just a culturally different thing that you're aware of. Like it's a very Hispanic neighborhood, and people speak Spanish to you and stuff.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's like it's new,
Yeah.
and that's I know those are the kind of situations where you kind of grow as a person without sounding too cliche, you know, especially because I don't know that many people around.
Mm.
So it's been good. I enjoy it.
What do you think of the community here at Guttenberg Arts?
Specifically in Guttenberg, I like the kind of values of Guttenberg Arts, especially because it's not an obvious place to have this kind of non-profit. So it's good to bring art to people and kind of just like the community garden and those kind of things, it eases people in.
Sorry, I'm just making a little noise with the microphone. Forgive me. Let's look at your art for a minute. And if you want to tell me what these pieces represent to you, and these were all made here, right? Hence the name of the show, Made Here.
Yeah, exactly. So this one's Sierra American, I call it, and it's a collage with a ballpoint pen drawing and a silkscreen print. So this is my first ever silkscreen. And the flag is Sierra Leonean colours in the US flag, and it's kind of loose and painterly silkscreen. So the portrait is of my half brother, and I met him for the first time whilst here in New Jersey because he lives in the US, and we've never met before. He's actually come in today, should be here soon. But
From your mother or from your father?
from my dad.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it shows kind of that, you know, the idea of immigration and people coming to America, the idea of the American dream and kind of, I don't know, the possibilities of living and growing up in the Western world. Because he'd only been in the US for 10 years. When he was 18, he moved here. And like we had vastly different upbringings. And I don't know, I felt strongly about drawing him to kind of, you know, mark that meeting, kind of, not commemorate, that's the wrong word, but you know what I mean, kind of signify that.
Is it a way to conjure him in some way? I mean, and by the way, this is the ballpoint section here? That's fantastic. That's really nice technique, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, it's layers and layers of tone. It's kind of my niche, but I wanted to try something different with the silk screen. And it's kind of inspired by Jasper Johns did 2 American flags. And I had the idea before I saw the Jasper Johns prints. So it was kind of really serendipitous when I looked up like painterly silk screening. And then I found that and I was like, oh, I need to do this. And,
So what happens if your half brother asks for this piece? Will you give it to him, or is it?
No.
Mm.
I'm gonna make a G-Clay print for him.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, let's take a look at this one because this one's you. And if I'm trying to describe this, there's a hand reaching towards it's either your head or your hair. What's the hand reaching towards?
Yeah, it's reaching towards the hair. It's Can I touch your hair? This one.
Do people ask that a lot, by the way, or is that something that happens to you? People ask to touch your hair?
So I've been growing my hair for like over a year and a half now. And when it was in the Afro stage, and I used to have it up, kind of a bit like Jackson 5, and people all the time would ask to touch your hair.
I mean, are we talking about white people would ask to touch your hair? Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, other people aren't asking to touch your hair, right?
If we're being candid, it's kind of upper class white people. Like I went to Freeze Masters, and then this older white lady, she was really nice, but she was just so fascinated by my hair.
Well, what do you do when that happens? Do you say, no, I would prefer you didn't touch my hair? Or what's the response?
Yeah, you kind of just laugh it off and, I don't know, think of like a quick one-liner just to make a joke out of it, alleviate the situation and change the subject. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a snap reaction. You got to be like, segue away from this. Because sometimes people don't ask. Sometimes people just like touch your hair, especially in like a bar kind of scenario. Like, and it's, in touch with beard when the beard was long. And for me, it's kind of, it seems innocuous on the surface, but when you delve a bit deeper, it's kind of demeaning and
patronizing.
Yeah, and it's like literally the act of petting. It's what you would do to your dog. And, I know people love their dogs, but, you don't sit at the table and have a conversation with your dog, do you?
This is another thing that white people do not have to contend with. There's no one asking to touch my hair. No one's ever asked to touch my hair. So this is ballpoint as well?
This is fine liner, so it's actually a bit thicker. So it's way more cross-hatching, delicate cross-hatching. It's drawn on a 1940s Sierra Leonean text. So my family's from Sierra Leone, so I tie in, where does this come from? Where does my kind of Afro hair come from? It comes from my Sierra Leonean heritage. So I tie it all in, you can see this little diagram, exports from Freetown. And
what was life like in Freetown in 1949, would you say? Was it free? I mean, it's called Freetown, but is that ironic?
It's called Freetown because slaves settled there in the late 18th century, freed slaves from Nova Scotia. And the founder of Freetown, actually, he rallied together thousands of freed slaves from America and got them all together for this voyage back to Sierra Leone, and then they declared it the capital of Freetown. So it's like a real kind of empowering story, and it just kind of, just reminds me of the heritage, because I was born and grew up in London.
But isn't the history of Sierra Leone since then kind of conflicted? I mean, I know a little bit about it, but does Freetown still exist, for instance, and in the same form?
So people, it's interesting you say that, because people, Sierra Leone and Freetown immediately has connotations of conflict, the Civil War 20 odd years ago, which is barbaric and just unthinkable atrocities, which still impact the country now. And you think blood diamonds, because Sierra Leone is one of the most naturally abundant countries in the whole world, but it's one of the 20 poorest countries in the planet.
Is it one of those places where the people who are on the surface don't get to take part in the riches beneath the earth? In other words, they don't get any of the mineral rights?
There's a huge gulf between classes. The poorest people suffer and kind of dehumanized by begging, and they literally have, like, some people have no means to get out of a certain situation, you know. So yeah, it resonates deeply with me. So like,
Well, how old were you when you found out about this, by the way? Was this something that was shared with you since you were young, or did it take a while for you to learn your history?
I started to look out by myself. So got like a huge family, got family back there. So I think when I was like 18, I did a project. I always used found text, and then I got one of my uncles from Sierra Leone to send me some old books because I wanted to kind of tie it together. And then I started to read some of the old books from then. But like that project when I was 18 wasn't, like, in hindsight, it was a bit cliche and a little bit redundant parts of it. But the roots from that kind of spawned my progression now. I think I've digressed somewhere. But yeah, I started, like, I'd hear stuff from, like, kind of family anecdotes and that kind of thing. But the history is stuff I looked up, like, by myself. And it's hard to look up because it's not well documented. So you need to get these old books, these old textbooks. And
Well, have you been, by the way, to Sierra Leone? Have you traveled?
I went when I was like 10 or 11 years old. But yeah, I do want to go again. That's kind of one of my long-term projects, is to do like a self kind of initiated residency. I want to spend maybe 6 months there, kind of live there and see the lifestyle firsthand instead of holiday.
I like this one because I like the original illustration on the cover of the mountains with the lion.
Yeah.
Do we know who did that? Is it credited to anybody? I see
Well,
what may be a signature there, but it's hard to tell.
Oh, that's a good point.
Pretty good line drawing, right?
I can find out.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sierra Leone means, well, it used to be Sierra de Leão because it was founded by a Portuguese, which means lioness mountains. So that's why you have the lion on the mountain. And,
Oh, okay. There you go. That explains it. And who is this figure here?
this is my cousin. He's here today, actually, Abdul. He's
I met him. Does he have the soccer jersey on?
Yeah, he's a spoken word poet. So I just, like, I have a huge family, huge extended family all over the world. Like, he lives in Brooklyn, and I met him for the first time here. And we're all fairly creative, and I think it has to do with it's got to be our heritage that kind of inspires us and motivates us. Because a lot of us, like, I'm first generation born in England, so it's very close, that history, you know. So it feeds into the work, and I can see kind of similarities. So I wanted to draw him doing what he does, and kind of intentionally leave sections unfinished. Like, I don't need to draw his clothes or his hat or the microphone. Like, you know, for me, less is more. So you can see the text and you can kind of tie it in for yourself, you know.
Oh, it's a brilliant way to do it too. I love it. The use of space, especially, you know.
Yeah, I think it sometimes takes a bit of confidence to, like, pull back a little bit, because this is my thing. I always think about why I'm doing everything. So everything's really pragmatic. Like, the text I choose, the composition, everything's thought through. Like, I don't need to show that I can draw a hat. I can draw a hat. You know, anyone, like, a lot of people can draw hats, but it's about
Hell, I can draw a hat.
the concept.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, yeah.
Yeah. What did he say when he saw it?
Oh, he loved it.
He did. Good. That's good. It's good that he didn't see it and say, that's not my best side. I wish you had done my other
He
side.
sent me some good source material.
And this is you, self-portrait here.
Yeah.
Tell us about this one.
More exposed. This one is pretentiously called Allegory of Self-Censorship. I feel stupid saying that, but I love Titian, the Renaissance painter, and his compositions have always kind of inspired me. And I was looking at one of his pieces, Allegory of Prudence, and then you look at all of these Renaissance artists, and it's like allegory of this and allegory of that. And I was thinking, that's what, you know, most of my pieces, you know, this is literally an allegory of self-censorship. So the texts are from Questions of Our Day, 1947 text, kind of confronting issues of society at that time. So I've got some of the headings, you know, the illusion of the inferiority complex, cult of speed, advantages of pessimism, and phase of despair. and you see some of these kind of archaic viewpoints that are still prevalent. So some of them will, like, there's a bit here where it says kind of about masculinity. It says I'm not 100% male. Does this say? It says absence of. Does this say? I haven't got my glasses on. But it's something along the lines of.
I cannot help finding evidence, he writes, that nature has not made, I can't see that word, made me 100% male. Besides such bodily peculiarities as absence of hair on the chest, there were womanish traits in my character. Aha.
Yeah, and some of these womanish traits, quote unquote, being emotional and kind of just human traits that are attributed to kind of femininity.
Well, what strikes me about your work, and especially this one, is it's about juxtaposition. I mean, these two things, in and of themselves, it's the combination of the two things that lends the power to the work.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I try and do, is kind of that cohesion between the ground it's drawn on and the concept. So this is like me literally being almost as vulnerable as you can be. You know, there's just a hat protecting, you know, my modesty.
The nasty bits, as the English might say.
The crown jewels.
The naughty bits. The twig and berries.
But yeah.
But I like the expression too, because like that one over there, it's a little bit, there's a fair amount of surprise. So what was the expression about? Why did you want to appear surprised in this one in particular?
I wanted like a little bit of ambiguity to it. It's like, what's he been caught doing? Or is he aware that the viewer's there and trying to, because the pose is meant to be quite animalistic, you know, stood wide-legged, every muscle's tense, you know, the hair is kind of like a savage, it's out.
It's like a wild man of Borneo type of look to this a bit, yeah.
And you know, it's kind of, everything, our society seems really, everyone's overly politically correct and afraid to offend each other. So I wanted to push the boundaries of that a little bit. You know, that's why he's kind of censoring himself, right. the figure. And like I say himself because there's always a level of detachment when you draw yourself. Because I don't draw myself because I'm a narcissist. It's because if I have an idea, for me it's easier to use myself as the subject than get a friend, you know, Barry, come over here, let's get naked and let me take a picture of you. Do you know what I mean? It's just...
But is there any element to this that's also about, you know, the body as an object?
I'd say it more kind of ties into ideas about it's kind of like the modern man, you know, like everyone wears so many hats, but like you get pigeonholed into certain things, and it's kind of delving a bit deeper behind the surface, you know, illusions of inferiority complex, kind of, you know, when you stood there basically naked, it's, as I said before, you're most vulnerable, so there's certain kind of insecurities that you encounter literally in the process, because you sat there for 200 plus hours just staring at one photo of yourself. So that's another kind of facet to this work. You know, that's why it's hard for me to explain a lot of my works.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking time to do it, because I know it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah,
you know,
that's why you get like specific messages across, and I have an overall theme, and yeah, overall it's about ethnic empowerment and minority empowerment. It's kind of use some of the anecdotes to start a conversation, because that's what I try and do in the work. It's meant to be a starting point for like a dialogue, and if it resonates with someone like on a different level, you know, this piece maybe for someone else looking at it that doesn't know me could be about gender, identity, anything. You know?
Right. Yeah. So you want that ambiguity in there,
like
as well.
A certain amount of it. Like I have my intentions for the work, but it has a whole other life after. So.
Well, thank you for talking to me for a little bit. Tell us who you are once again.
It's all right. I'm Habib Hajallie.
And how long are you going to stay in New Jersey? Are you going to be here for a little while?
I've got 2.5 weeks left at the time of recording.
Oh, okay, good. So hopefully we'll cross paths again.
Oh, definitely.
Right?
I'm going to keep in touch.
Thank you again. I wish I had brought some ice cream today, but I didn't.